See, recycle. It's something that is such a catchword now, but I think it's so important.
Everything, I guess, in life is kind of recreated over and over again, and I think artists understand that.
I think life is about, in a grand scale, reimagining everything. I find that life is fascinating if you keep an open mind.
I received an email telling me about this show that was going to benefit Habitat for Humanity, which, those three words say it all, Habitat for Humanity. What could be better? So I immediately wanted to participate, and when I understood from the email that what we were going to be doing was going down to the ReStore and have run of the place to choose whatever we wanted to make into art. That sounded great.
I'm in touch with all of these wonderful artists that all are creating. I've spoken to a few of them, and it's amazing how differently everybody has approached this project. Because you go into this room at the ReStore, and it's wonderful.
Part of the process for me is being challenged by the materials and trying to think, outside of the box instead of working with a traditional, conventional material. The challenge of having things that weren't normally meant, that aren't, meant for art making.
We're taking stuff that would be junk, would be discarded and trashed, saving it, and then turning it back into something that people can use on an everyday basis, which is beautiful. My part of the process, using some of those objects in the ReStore to make a piece of art that will hopefully get sold. And then some of those proceeds will go to building a house for a family.
ReCycle is extremely important for our environment, for the world and the future. I have 4 grandchildren, and if we aren't careful, they won't be able to swim in the ocean. It'll be an ocean filled with islands of garbage. So I'm very aware of that aspect of it.
Well, recycling is interesting to me on actually a lot of levels. Of course, from a humanity perspective, to recycle the stuff we use I guess can't be anything but a great thing. And I just incorporate it into my artwork, so I never look at something as useless. It's all usable.
Well, recycling, I guess, has become a part of everyone's life who lives in the country. We have a recycling bin for all our vegetables, and that's sort of where I want to end up when it's all over. I always say to Arthur, just throw my ashes into the compost heap.
And right now, not right now, for the last 2-3 years, I've been working in a series called the Archaeological Museum, where I recycle not only the object, but the history of the object. And sometimes I touch the history of the Hudson River, or sometimes the history of mythology or nature. Yeah, it's kind of fun, it's a different recycling in many different ways, not only materials, but what the meaning of the materials can be interpreted.
I've been working now for many years. I kind of drifted into trees for their abstract qualities and kind of infinite ways to see them. And so that's always a kind of recycling.
I would say 90% of my sculpture are from part of buildings. And when I turn down and I use the materials, wood or trees that went down, go there, and instead of I go and do it better.
What I like is that we, in our personal animation, which is all done photo collage from magazines, we only use found imagery from magazines. So we constantly recycle. But this is the first 3-dimensional recycling we've done.
You can build building from recycle. You know, you can recycle. You can recycle everything. You can recycle your life.
Everything, I guess, in life is kind of recreated over and over again, and I think artists understand that and don't feel it's something they can't do.
Ooh, I love ReCreate. I'd taken a film class in which Stanley Kaufman, the great film critic, would say, well, you know, La Dolce Vita is really Fellini's story about how he began in journalism. And The 400 Blows is really Truffaut's reimagining his difficult adolescence. And so I decided to do a blatantly autobiographical film, Frank film. Right in the middle of the film, I had this sequence in which I'd gone through college. I thought I'd be an architect, then that wasn't working out, and the screen goes blank. And I say, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where I would go to graduate school. And then we fade in to a big photograph of Boris Karloff as Frankenstein. And I said, and then I just sort of recreated myself.
The idea of recreating something is actually a theme that I have used a lot in my work, where I have used found objects. And there's such inherent beauty sometimes in those objects that it's such a wonderful thing to be able to take them out of the context they're in and then put them in a new context to be able to see them in a fresh way.
For lack of a better word, it's our job to make these things into either something different or a more glorified thing than this object was initially.
The idea of recreating is very interesting, especially when we have all of these manufactured objects that are just, I don't know what this is for. I have no idea what this is for, some sort of clip for something. But as an object, it's wonderful to be able to reimagine and recreate this for use in something else. I'm kind of excited about these little clips and all of these other little things and see what I can do with them. But the idea of recreating something is actually a theme that I have used a lot in my work, where I have used found objects. And there's such inherent beauty sometimes in those objects that it's such a wonderful thing to be able to take them out of the context they're in and then put them in a new context to be able to see them in a fresh way.
I've done a lot of experimenting, photographing lilies of the valley, which one would think of as being a very typical plant that nobody pays attention to. It's a sort of green leaf with a little white flower, but I have found that the spiral forms within those plants are fascinating, and I have taken maybe 20, 30 shots of these to explore the possibilities. Being an architect, form is very important to me, and it always has been. But rediscovering it and recreating it in my photographs of nature has taken me in a different way that I didn't imagine.
You have to kind of reinvent and reimagine how you fit into a community.
Yeah, I think we were both interested in, moving to a small community and being very much a part of sort of reimagining small town life and, and what that means. It's been a good experience being in Greene County and namely in Catskill. It just happens that there are a lot of artists in the area. And I think art's involved in, the process of reimagining, in many ways. I mean, the community center, there are artists involved, teaching classes there. Dina's been teaching a class there. We did a public art piece down at the riverfront, and I know there are other artists that have done some public art pieces.
Well, I think all those things, recycling, community, art, all those things can be amalgamated into a much bigger whole. They're synergistic, I guess, is the right word, I think.
The art process is an alchemical process. So if anything else, it's a transformation of yourself, of the artist. So I think that's important, and also when you involve other people in a community or work or children, you're looking for the same thing, the transformation of the self, making a better person of yourself, being transformed.
When I'm thinking of that word, reimagine, it brings me back to Habitat and the idea of creating a safe space for people, just really giving people, reimagining someone's life, and having a home is a way of reimagining that.
I always try to think of what I am doing relative to the bigger picture, the picture of society and how it interacts. And unfortunately, at this present time, so much of society is in conflict rather than in unity. And I think it's way back in my mind, but it is part of my thinking process that it is exciting and worthwhile to create a work of art, if it is considered that by other people, which has a more general purpose in nature and in society.
Well, on my clay, with my sculptures, I do create a kind of a mythology, and I did public work. Also, recycling not recycling the concept of, for example, gargoyles. I did gargoyles to scare developers in the city. And then I have a totem against the budget cuts in the arts. So I reimagine mythologies and events, and mixing the old with the new and making up something different.
And I would say that having projects like this one for Habitat is it's very useful for sparking the imagination, saying well, no, I can't just do it my same old way. I'm going to go look for something new to get started on, and that could be just the fire I need.
I think what you're doing with Habitat is really terrific because it's bringing all that together in one place for a spell, and it's very interesting. I think it's a great thing you're doing. So,
recycling is something I think that everybody's become very aware of. It's part of our vocabulary now in every way. So I think that was one of the things that was kind of enticing for artists to do something like this.
It's nice for me to be able to have the opportunity to make art and to contribute and have what I do be a contribution to people to working families in the area who can really use a leg up. So it's a really nice opportunity for artists to really give what they can.
Society that's wasting everything, so might as well, reuse it and put it in a different context. So that's why we're excited about, participating in this kind of a show.
You can't say no to Habitat for Humanity.